What's good, everybody? Welcome into another special episode of Behind the Turnbuckle. We are changing the game. We only go between 10 and 15 minutes every single show because we know you have a lot to do. He is Big Tommy C, my partner. I am the coach. And Tommy, this week we had a couple of big-time deaths in the world of sports. And one of them has a direct tie to the WWF and WWE. And that, of course, is 83-year-old Pete Rose, who passed away this week. Now, it begs the question, because WWE over the years has always utilized celebrities. Pete Rose was one of those that embraced being a celebrity and doing pro wrestling, maybe as much, if not more, than anyone. How cool was Pete Rose when they brought him on to do all that goofy stuff that he did?
Pete Rose was entertaining as hell, and he loved every bit of that. He was phenomenal. He embraced it. He was a big-time baseball star and who got blackballed and whatever you want to talk about there. But Pete Rose embraced every part of being at every WrestleMania he ever was at, and I thought he was entertaining. And I got to get a picture with him. And I
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Yep. I know you're a big baseball guy. That had
yes.
to. I mean,
yes.
And,
oh my God.
People like me and you, we don't look at somebody and go, "Oh, he had this." We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. I don't give a shit about that. And to me, I look at the greatness of the player.
Yes.
And we all bet. Tommy, it's legal now. You shouldn't bet on your team. But how cool was it to be in the presence of somebody who was as great of a hitter as there ever was?
Great hitter, Charlie Hustle. You saw what he did in the All-Star game? He ruined Ray Fosse's life by running him over. That would never happen today. But he's a gamer. He put Bud Harrelson in left field when they played the Mets and they started a big fight. I love stuff like that. I love gamers like Pete Rose. Nobody worked harder than him, and a phenomenal hitter, unbelievable hitter, one of the best.
Over 4,000 hits, I believe, right? Over 4,000. That's so many. Part of Cincinnati lore. And I just hope, because he is in the WWE Hall of Fame, isn't he, Tommy?
Yes,
he is, right?
Yeah.
So, but he deserves, just for his play on the field. Hopefully these old geezers that still vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame either get out of the way or understand you take the stuff out, because just him as a player is worthy of the Hall of Fame, let alone him as a manager. So get him in. But Tommy, it begged the question for me. I got to thinking as I was remembering Pete Rose on Monday. There have been some great entertaining appearances by celebrities over the years. But what are, in our minds, the three most entertaining? So I want to start at number 3 for you on your most entertaining, not that doesn't be WrestleMania, just WWE moment of all time.
I got to tell you, man, is Johnny Knoxville. The match he had with Sami Zayn and all the mousetrap and Wee Man. That was one of the most entertaining matches ever. It was WrestleMania 38 in the AT&T Stadium, and that was one of the best matches, entertaining with a celebrity I have ever seen. With Wee Man body slamming, they had the mousetrap, they had the tables. I loved it, and that's my number 3.
Wasn't he also in a Royal Rumble at one point, Johnny Knoxville?
Yes, he was. Wow. Yep. He had the
whole
Jackass crew with him.
I remember we were in L.A. one time, and a sober, who was the guy that was always doing the crazy talk like this?
Oh
my gosh.
Steve-O?
Yeah, Steve-O. Yeah. So we got a sober Steve-O in L.A., and I was like, this dude's not any fun. I want the dude that's, getting launched out of a crane into a pile of goo. That's the guy I want. That's not who he was sober. And then we come to find out that a lot of those guys couldn't have done that show, that movie, or whatever if they were sober,
right?
Which is bananas to me. Wow. So Johnny Knoxville is your number 1 or your number 3.
Three.
My number 3 is Shaq, because Shaq to me epitomizes being a celebrity. Nobody loves being him more than Shaq. And not only did Shaq participate in that big Battle Royal, which I actually was there for. I was already gone, but I was there. Him and Big Show. But every time, Tom, remember we used to go to L.A., and when he played for the Lakers, every show that came to town, who was standing backstage? Every show. Shaq. He loved wrestling truly. Yeah. He's a big kid. And I think that a lot of really wealthy celebrities would love to do exactly what Shaq has done. And no matter how old, he's in his 50s now, and you would never know it because all he does is like to help people, be a big kid, and show up. And he loved being a part of the WWE big time, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And you know what, Coach? When we were on the road and he was a rookie, it was a Houston TV. It was myself and Mike Calabrese, Mike, big basketball fans. And he was at the event, and Johnny Giamondo, we all took pictures, separate pictures. This is before Shaq was he was a nobody, tall, skinny kid. We knew he was going to be good. Took the picture, and we never got the picture. I don't know what Giamondo did. We never got the picture with Shaq, and I was so pissed off about it because we all knew he was going to be a big-time star, and it was at a Houston. He was a fan back then, and I could have had this.
Have you been to the basement of Johnny Photo? It's probably on the wall. Are you kidding me right now? It's probably on the wall.
Yeah, you're probably
he takes
right.
it down every time you come over.
Right. Yep.
All right, number 2. Who is your number 2 celebrity of all time in the WWE, Tommy?
It's got to be one of the greatest boxers of all time, Mike Tyson, WrestleMania in Boston. He was you thought he was going to be the heel. He ended up being the baby face. And just meeting Mike Tyson and seeing him was incredible enough for me. That was one of the top boxers of all time. Nobody tops it more than him. He's my second best.
He's the epitome of, because just so people understand, in the early 80s, Vince did not believe that celebrities should be a part of the big shows. He believed his talent were the celebrities. He hated, but I think he realized at WrestleMania 1, and then as he moved along, you got to have different celebrities to bring in a different crowd. Mike Tyson at that time was as polarizing an individual as you're ever going to have. He had just spent time in prison, and that's the other part, the documentary, not to get off topic.
Yeah.
I can't believe the video even existed of Stephanie, who's supposed to know everything. She didn't even realize that Mike Tyson was used after he went to prison. She thought he went to prison after they used him at WrestleMania.
Right.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
I know.
And actually they didn't destroy that tape. How does that tape even live? And the documentary got their hands on it. That's even more crazy to me.
Yep.
So Tyson was such a good selection because if you're looking at heat, if you're looking at having somebody match up against Stone Cold, who's supposed to be this Texas badass, it doesn't get any more badass than Mike Tyson at all.
Right.
I love that choice.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy, I used the word entertaining. And my number 2 was as entertaining a moment as I can remember. It was my last WrestleMania, 2008. No. I didn't know it at the time. My daughter was set to be born in June. So that was the time that Amy, as you know, my now ex-wife, she met Snoop Dogg in his trailer because the Citrus Bowl in Orlando doesn't have locker rooms. So they all had their own trailers.
Yep.
And she walked in and there was, smoke everywhere and you smell like the greatest weed in the world. And she got to meet Snoop. But the trailer right next door, security outside, couldn't see who was inside, didn't want to be bothered, big star, and they paid her $25,000 to show up for one day. And that was Kim Kardashian. And Tommy, I was ringside, and all she had to do for 25 large was announce the attendance. And if I remember correctly, it was something like 68,253, let's say. Tommy, she walks out, and I kid you not, had a card with her. She could not remember the number. And I'm sitting there going, can it get any worse than reading off a card? And then, Tommy, she opened her mouth. And it sounded a little something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce a brand new Citrus Bowl attendance record of 68,253. Yay! I remember sitting there thinking to myself, Vince has got to be losing his mind. Has got to be. The only other bigger waste of money was Ashanti, who they paid $50,000 to sing America the Beautiful, showed up in Seattle and didn't even know the first line of the song.
Right.
That was even more embarrassing. But Kim Kardashian at that time, Tommy, 2008, was really becoming a superstar. But, man, what a waste of money that was.
I was there for that, Coach. I remember the rehearsal with Howard Finkel there trying to guide her through, and she couldn't even get the rehearsal right. And I'm like, oh man, thank God you have that rear end, honey, because that's the only thing that's carrying you right now. Enough said.
Enough said. All right. Our number one most entertaining celebrity inside the WWE is who, Tommy?
My number one is the greatest defensive football player of all time. Happens to be from my New York Giants, L.T. Lawrence Taylor, WrestleMania 11 in Hartford, where he went against Bam Bam Bigelow. I freaked out when I found out LT was going to be at WrestleMania. It was so cool. We had a ring inside the warehouse. Remember the ring we had in the warehouse in the TV studio?
Yep.
Saturdays, LT would come up and work out with Pat Patterson, and they bring Bam Bam in sometime. Well, they asked me if I wanted to meet him because they knew I was a big fan. Kevin knew I was a fan.
Yeah, huge Giants fan.
He pulls in the Cadillac. He brings his manager, Dino, this little short Italian guy. He pulls out his golf clubs. We're not ready to go. And there was a Duraloo building, as you know, across the way. He's banging on the asphalt. He's banging golf balls. Boom, going over the friggin' building. Who's going to stop him? Am I going to stop him? No. He's like, oh, do you mind if I do this? Dude, you can do whatever you want, man. It was LT. He was entertaining, brought all the football players with him. I'm a mark for football, just like you. And it was one of the best WrestleManias I ever attended, worked, and LT was phenomenal.
Tommy, I used to be on the board of directors for David Ortiz's charity. And they always had their event in the Dominican Republic, the Red Sox great. And it was very controversial to invite him one year because of some of the things that he has done. And I remember they said, oh, should we invite him? We'll see if the people, because we used to bid on who your celebrity is going to be in the golf, on the golf side of things. He's obsessed with golf. So the fact that you bring that up is right on point. He gets down there. He had his flyman in a couple of days early. He played 36 holes of golf every day. Who do you think had the highest bid? They went from controversial to who do you think had the highest bid to have him, or the highest bid to get to be able to place in a group? Lawrence Taylor. $37,000 somebody paid to have him be their celebrity. And I remember going up to him and I asked him, and he confirmed this. Remember the legendary story about him partying all night in New York City, high as a kite? And then he's driving home on the Jersey Turnpike, and he sees all these cars pulling into Giant Stadium, and he's like, oh, pulls in. Obviously, everybody knows him. They, go ahead. Gets up to the security guard, and he goes, what's going on here today? They're like, LT, you got a game at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, I do? Yeah. Okay. Pulls in, has like 3 sacks. They win the game on no sleep, and who knows what he had in his system.
Yep.
Tommy, he confirmed it. He said it was all true.
Yep.
That's legendary status. I don't recommend it for anybody these days. But back in the day,
he changed the game. He changed the game. Yes, he did.
My number one. And Tommy, I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed that this was not your number one. Celebrities do not exist inside of the WWE without my number one.
Okay.
And there has been rumors that particular day of WrestleMania 1, that Hogan and Mr. T held out for more money from Vince. They realized that the entire, and you saw it in the documentary, everything was mortgaged. Everything was on the line. So this story actually makes sense that they would hold out for more and that Vince had to find an extra $250,000 to $500,000 for them to show up and be in the main event of WrestleMania 1. It's on brand for Hogan, especially. We know Hogan.
Right.
But Mr. T was the guy. And I'll never forget Tommy in North Carolina one time, the Brooklyn Brawler. He used to love to surprise us with the celebrities. Remember that? And we were playing cards behind the thing. And all of a sudden, he goes, Coach, you won't believe who's outside. And remember he did all his commercials for 1-800-COLLECT?
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
And he's like, Mr. T is out in the hallway. I said, Brawler, you do this all the time.
Yeah.
Mr. T is not out in the – remember he used to do that? And all of a sudden, the curtain flies back again. Mr. T is standing right there. And that's how I got to meet him. Could not have been nicer. I couldn't believe how small he was, though.
Yeah.
He's a lot smaller than I anticipated.
Yes.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
He's a legend, man. He's still a legend to this day. He still has figured out how to reinvent himself as Mr. T. And that's hard to do.
Yep. Do you remember the Hall of Fame, when they put him in the Hall of Fame, they had to cut his speech? Like they just cut his mic. He was just rambling on for minutes, and Kevin and Vince were going nuts. Cut his mic. Just cut his mic off. And he said, I felt so bad for T. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I mean, oh my God. But what a great guy, man. And, back in the day when that happened, WrestleMania 1, he was a big time star. Big time.
Well, I mean, the huge star. Then he was, star of the 18. Like, he had it going on, and he looked like nobody else. We could do a whole entire episode, Tommy, on bad Hall of Fame speeches and how much. I mean, when they brought it back in New York, I remember they had like 13 guys they were going to induct. It went so long that bars were closed in New York City.
Yeah.
By the time we got done in that ballroom at the Hilton or wherever the hell we were at,
I remember
and that's what they decided to give guys time for the next year. Superstar Billy Graham went for like 34 minutes. We're like, oh my God, stop it already. All right, every single episode is only about 10 to 15, 16 minutes at the most. We understand that you have time. Easiest way to take in all of our content, subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notifications. Every time a show drops or an interview drops, you will be notified and you can watch it all. Right now, we're in the middle of Maven. Part 1 is dropped. Part 2 will drop later this week. You do not want to miss that. But for now, that's going to do it for us. For Big Tommy C, for Producer Man Behind the Scenes, I am the coach. We'll see you next time behind the turnbuckle.